No one expected Kandi Burruss to be the one to break the silence. For weeks, the internet had been buzzing with rumors, theories, and accusations, all swirling around tiny hints and half-truths that never seemed to fully add up. People argued, posted screenshots, traded whispers in comment sections, and stitched together videos that claimed to expose what really happened. But through all the noise, the one voice everyone waited to hear from was Kandi's. And when she finally did speak, her words ignited a storm unlike anything the fandom had ever seen. What had been gossip suddenly transformed into a full-scale crisis, one that threatened to tear apart friendships, reputations, and an entire online community. At the center of it all stood Tiny, confused, broken, and drowning in a sea of betrayal she never imagined she would face. Kandi didn't come out swinging or defensive the way many expected. There was no anger in her voice, no attempt to weaponize the moment. Instead, when the live clip surfaced, she sounded tired, almost defeated, like someone who had carried a truth for far longer than she ever intended to. Her words were simple, but devastating. People always assume they know the story, but sometimes the truth hurts more than the lie. It wasn't an admission, and it wasn't a denial. It was something in between, a statement that left enough open space for people to interpret it however they wanted to. The ambiguity made it even more explosive. Within minutes, hashtags shot into the global trending list, reaction videos multiplied at lightning speed, and every corner of the internet became consumed with one question: what truth was Kandi referring to? Meanwhile, Tiny vanished from public view. Normally active, always engaging with her followers, she suddenly went completely silent. No photos, no comments, no cryptic emojis, nothing. It was as if she had evaporated from the digital world overnight. People close to her quickly realized the situation was far more serious than anyone had assumed. According to insiders, Tiny had been unable to stop crying since the clip surfaced. The words Kandi had spoken were not just vague thoughts to her. They were daggers that pierced straight through her already fragile trust. She had spent weeks trying to convince herself that the rumors weren't true, that the internet was exaggerating, that the people closest to her would never betray her. But Kandi's tone, her resignation, and her carefully chosen words shattered whatever denial Tiny had clung to. For her, Kandi's statement wasn't just commentary, it was confirmation of the one thing she had desperately hoped wasn't real. The internet, smelling blood, became even more relentless. Online detectives began digging through years of footage to find hidden clues. Old live streams resurfaced. Interviews where Kandi hesitated or shifted slightly in her seat were suddenly treated as evidence. Screen-recorded moments, once dismissed as irrelevant, now became proof of a long-hidden truth. Fans dissected body language, comparing clips side by side in hopes of discovering what Kandi had supposedly kept quiet. And in the middle of the frenzy, Tiny felt herself shrinking into a corner, overwhelmed by a world that wouldn't stop spinning long enough for her to catch her breath. T, on the other hand, did the opposite of what anyone expected. Known for being outspoken, unfiltered, and quick to correct any narratives about him, he went completely silent. Days passed with no statements, no comments, and no attempts to control the situation. His accounts, usually buzzing with activity, became eerily still. Fans interpreted the silence as guilt, while others believed it was strategy crafted by a PR team desperate to prevent him from saying something that could worsen the situation. But the effect was the same. His silence became part of the scandal, a loud, echoing void that made the public even more suspicious. Kandi didn't seem bothered by the chaos she had unleashed. In fact, later that night, she added more fuel to the fire with a cryptic sentence posted to her Instagram story. "I said what needed to be said." Short, vague, but powerful enough to send the internet spiraling all over again. People interpreted the message in contradictory ways. Some believed she was standing firm in her truth, while others thought she was preparing to reveal even more. Then there were those who believed she had opened Pandora's box and was now refusing to close it, letting whatever consequences follow unfold at their own pace. No matter which interpretation people chose, one thing was undeniable. Kandi had no intention of backing down. Shekinah's sudden reappearance only heightened the drama. She went live with trembling hands and tears in her eyes, whispering, "I'm done being blamed. I told the truth when nobody wanted to hear it." She didn't name names, but she didn't need to. Her fear, exhaustion, and pain spoke louder than anything she could have explicitly stated. Viewers immediately connected her emotional words to Kandi's earlier comments. Suddenly, the theory spread that both women had been carrying a truth that Tiny was the last to know. Comments poured in accusing their entire circle of betrayal, secrecy, and manipulation. Every sentence from Shekinah's live was clipped, edited, and reposted across platforms, each version framed to support whichever narrative the uploader believed. By then, Tiny's world was collapsing in ways she could barely process. Brands were hesitating, collaborators were pulling back. Even some friends, afraid of being associated with the scandal, began quietly distancing themselves. She felt isolated, suffocated by the pressure, and terrified of the implications of everything being said. The emotional weight of betrayal was heavy enough, but the public spectacle made it unbearable. She found herself questioning not only what was true, but who had known, who had lied, and how long people had been talking behind her back. Every time her phone buzzed, she flinched, afraid of what new headline or accusation might appear next. Then came the audio leak, something no one was prepared for. A distorted, grainy recording of Kandi's voice saying, "I told her everything because she deserved the truth. She needed to know what he did." The clip wasn't clear, and the rest of the conversation was cut off, but the internet didn't care. To them, it was enough. Theories exploded instantly. Some claimed the recording confirmed T's involvement in a secret relationship. Others insisted it hinted at deeper betrayal, the kind that could destroy reputations and families. Tiny's friends tried to stop her from listening, but she couldn't resist. And the moment she heard Kandi's trembling voice, her heart sank. The familiarity of the voice, the tone, the emotional weight behind the words, it all made the leak impossible to dismiss. She felt herself unraveling, trying to understand if her entire reality had been a lie. Kandi's team tried to come out with a statement claiming the audio was edited, manipulated, taken out of context. But by the time the statement was released, it was too late. The court of public opinion had already reached its verdict. No one cared about official responses anymore. They cared about drama, feelings, and emotional impact. Truth had become secondary to narrative. Every hour brought a new wave of speculation, another exclusive, another whisper that spread like wildfire before anyone could fact-check it. The avalanche of chaos was too powerful for any PR move to stop. Tiny, eventually pushed to her limit, broke her silence, but only slightly. She gave a brief, heartbreaking statement in a voice so fragile it barely carried. "I don't know what's true anymore. I just know I didn't deserve this." Those few sentences were enough to dominate headlines for the next 24 hours. Her pain was visible, her confusion raw, and her devastation impossible to ignore. People felt sympathy for her, but many also sensed there was more she still wasn't saying. As if things weren't already chaotic enough, an anonymous message arrived on Tiny's phone that night. The sender was untraceable, the content chillingly simple. "You've only heard part of it. The rest is coming soon." She stared at the message, feeling a cold heaviness settle in her chest. Whether it was a threat, a warning, or a cruel prank, she couldn't tell. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. It wasn't over. The next morning confirmed her fear. the so-called rest of it dropped online, a longer, clearer version of the leaked audio. This time, Kandi's voice was unmistakable, emotional, and full of regret. She said she never wanted to be the one to expose the truth, but Tiny deserved to know. She said everyone else had been aware, and it would have been cruel to keep her in the dark any longer. The internet erupted yet again, this time with even more fury and confusion. People demanded answers. They wanted to know what T had done, who else had been involved, and how long the circle of silence had been maintained. By the end of the week, the story had spiraled into something monstrous, bigger than truth, bigger than facts, bigger than the people at its center. It had become entertainment, spectacle, a digital wildfire feeding on speculation and emotion. And Tiny, exhausted, heartbroken, and out of options, realized she had no choice but to brace herself for whatever came next. Because despite everything that had already unfolded, one thing was painfully clear. This was only the beginning.